någon vill leipa nu. Vi tåra sikta högt, vi larm och sväng, just stolar vid tikkum. Kvör sparsk, kvör stall, skåra kojma. Och oss motståndar lögner sen, så stannar vi fast. Pör och oj, lag skitsätt, vi bara tar dig högt. Kojor och kära fälla, och kära koj. Vi stannar samman och i stormig regn med sol och kava.
Hello, guys, and welcome back to the second episode of the Far North Football Podcast. Today we have a viewer suggestion, or should I say listener suggestion. This listener was curious about how contracts and squad regulations work in the Faroe Islands, which I understand it's not easy to get information about that. It's interesting to know how the league is put together. But first, I want to say I don't have specific numbers either, because the clubs are pretty private about what they pay their players in wages, and don't really give that information out publicly. But we will at least look into some things, some estimations, and some things that I know, and some information that is public. Yeah, so first of all, a player in the Faroe Islands, to be eligible to play, he has to have a contract, and to have a contract, the minimum requirement that, for example, the most teams use when there's a newcomer, like a youth player coming through that still is young and hasn't reached any heights yet, but they want to have him in the squad to be allowed to play. Is 300 Danish crowns a month, about 40 euros. And that is the minimum requirement for a player to be able to play in the league, except that you can play one game without a contract. If you have played one game in the league, you need to have a contract to even sit on the bench. Then we could take some averages. Let's take Kea, for example. Koi, my team, obviously, they spent the most wages, which isn't a surprise because they have gotten the most money recently with the European matches and also have good sponsors. But what I could find is the estimated average wage for a player of KI is around 3,200 euros, which is really much for a small league like this, and that's just the average. But you could obviously see players get wages from around 3,000, but all the way up to 6,000 euros a month, and that is a lot. But that is what you have to do if you want to compete against teams in Europe, and that is what Koi is trying to do. I know they pay some of their of the Faroese players high wages as well, especially the national team players, but it varies from player to player, and the local players usually get paid less, especially in the beginning when they are just coming through. Also, a player could get a wage, but it's pretty common for foreign players, especially in the Faroe Islands. I will come to that later, what they earn on average, but it's common for foreign players to get paid a certain amount of wages. Also, which is pretty normal in the Faroe Islands, is that foreign players, they get a wage, and the minimum for a foreign player is around 1,850 euros per month. Which is the absolute minimum that some teams choose to pay, and that is for foreign players. But one common loophole that many teams use is that when they pay a wage, the team gets paid that money back in car rental, for example, if they have a car, but also if the team owns any houses, for example, the players pay directly back to the club for rent for the house to live in and different stuff. So there's loopholes for teams to get them cheaper, because 1,850 is pretty high for a team in the lower part of the league. So there's loopholes, obviously. But not every foreign player is counted towards a foreign player when it comes to squad regulations. A foreign player is a player that is not from one of the Nordic countries. The Nordic countries count towards, just a Faroese player. They don't have specific requirements when it comes to squad regulations. So players from Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and Iceland, and Faroe Islands, obviously, don't have any specific requirements to get registered. That's why you see players or teams, should I say, normally have mostly Scandinavian and Nordic players. But you see every now and then other players from different countries, but you won't see more than 5 at one time. And then obviously, if they've stayed in the Faroe Islands for a certain amount of time, which I don't know specifically, but I think it's over 5, then they can count towards a non-foreign player as well. But back to the wage part, as I said, a team like KI, because of the Europe football and especially the Champions League football, they have higher earners. But let's take the top 4, for example, when it comes to NSUI, Witchinger, HB, and maybe also B36, because they're also normally in Europe. They have around, I don't know, like 2,200 euros per player on average, and then obviously there's local players that earn towards the minimum, and then there's also maybe foreign players that earn above that. So you can see high earners for different teams as well, but there's not many professional players in the Faroe Islands. I don't know the exact number, but I know there's a few players for KI that don't work, but it's pretty common that the players earn towards the minimum for the foreign players, and maybe local players earn around the same as the minimum for foreign players, and then they have work on the side because it's a semi-professional job. So many people work as carpenters, electricians, and even go to school. That's also common to see here. And then we take the bottom part of the league. It's not much. I think the numbers I could find, it's around 900 to 1,400 on average, depending on what team for each players. 900 to 1,400 euros. And then the players obviously have jobs on the side, and foreign players that earn towards the higher end of that usually are the star players, because you rarely see teams in the bottom half of the league have foreign players that sit on the bench most of the time. But you can see for KI, for example, that a lot of the time there are foreign players sitting on the bench. But it's also how smart the teams are with the wage they pay. If they get it back with car rental and get it back for house rent as well. The length of the contract is a maximum of 5 years in the Faroe Islands, and 3 years if the player is under 18 and with a guardian, obviously. The squad, the squad number, the maximum squad is a total of 25 players, and that is not including under 21 players. So every player under 21 doesn't need to get registered, but he does have to have a contract if he wants to play more than one game. It's 25 players with 5 foreign players, as I said earlier, excluding Danish, Finnish, Swedish, Norwegian, and Icelandic players, because they count toward local or Faroese players. And there's no wage cap. There's no maximum how much a team is allowed to spend on a player, but it's up to the club and how smart they want to play. So yeah, it's pretty hard to find exact numbers, but I know personally that some players in the KI squad that aren't starters have been on really high wages. The difference from the top 4 and the bottom 6 when it comes to wages is huge, and that's also why it's rare to see teams compete for the 4th place, maybe for the 5th place. For a bottom 5 team, it's really rare to see them compete for the European matches places. A team like B36 and Witchinger this season have competed for the 4th place. That is about normal in the Faroe Islands, but a few years back, when NSUI actually got relegated, there was only 4 of the top 5 teams, as we call them here in the Faroe Islands, in the league. So there was like guaranteed for the normal top 4 to get Europe and the bottom 6 to fight staying in the league. But obviously NSUI has returned to the top league, and they are strong now, and they are contenders for KI when it comes to the league, and maybe the biggest rivals, even though HB got to the 2nd place this year. But NSI are looking like they want more, and they are looking like they want to spend money. So yeah, no price cap, but there's a minimum for foreign players, which is around 1,850 euros, and a minimum of 300 Danish crowns for a contract if you want to play in the league, which is around 40 euros. Now I want to talk about the Conference League predictions. What teams will reach the league stage next season when it comes to the Conference League. Some of you may have seen stuff like this on Twitter or X, but it's data from Football Mets data and also Football Rankings on X. You guys should follow them if you're interested in football data, because there's a lot of good data out there, especially for these competitions, predictions of what places teams finish, and probability of them going on to the next round and stuff like that. But in this one that I'm looking at right now, from the Football Mets data, it says UEFA Conference League 2026-27 league stage, as things stands as 2nd of December, predict that KI will manage to come into the Conference league phase. It's not group stage anymore. Last time we qualified, or the first time we qualified, it was a group phase. But they will be in pot 6 if they manage to qualify, and this is not 100% certain yet, because it depends on which teams qualify. It's going to be easier for KI to qualify this time around. That is obviously thanks to that they won the league this year, or we won the league this year, and that's the most important thing. If you want to qualify for a European league phase here in the Faroe Islands, you have to win the league. If you don't win the league, the probability of you qualifying for a group stage is slim to none. We saw it this year with the KI. They managed to progress 2 rounds from the Conference League, which was still impressive against a team from Serbia and Finland. But we should also have probably won the 3rd game. But if we wanted to qualify from the playoffs, we would have to beat a team from La Liga, Rayo Vallecano, and that is almost impossible. But that's also what we said in 2023, that it's impossible. So you always have to believe, but this season is going to be way easier because we start in the Champions League, and if we win the Champions League first qualifying round, that means that we have to only win one more tie to qualify for the league phase of the Conference League. Because if you qualify for the 2nd round of the Champions League, if you lose that one, you fall down to the Europa League, and if you lose that one, you fall down to the Conference League playoffs. There has been some activity in the transfer market for Faroese teams. Not a lot from my team, but I don't know. That's kind of what you expect, because the first signings last season didn't come until like almost the 2nd year. So like in late December, we could expect to hear maybe 1 or 2 new names. So everything I know about KI's transfer so far is that they are looking at a Norwegian striker from the 3rd division in Norway, I think, which has scored a lot of goals in that league. But if you have to compare the 3rd league of Norway to the Faroese 1st division, it's Similar, I would guess, but I think also maybe a team like KI are above the average of a third division team in Norway. But NSOE have got their new coach. They have been close many times to get a new coach, but this time it finally happened. It's an Icelandic guy called Sigurd Ragnar Eifsteinsson. He's 52-year-old Icelandic guy, and he hasn't had a football job since 2023, but he has the UEFA Pro license, which there aren't many coaches in the Faroe Islands that have UEFA Pro. But when it comes to player recruitments, it's not a lot of activity from the top teams, but teams like Witchinger have started getting some players like Filip Djordjevic and Mikkel Hullegard, which are actually two foreign players, which is really surprising for a team like Witchinger because they have a policy where they try to use their own as much as possible, which is really good, but it's hard to compete for the top places if you don't strengthen your team when you lose players when they get sold. And that happened this year. You saw them finish fourth, and they sold players like Gesa Turi the year prior, and now they are losing Paul Karlsberg and Atle and a few more, actually many more. But yeah, NSOE has also strengthened their squad a little bit with a player like Marius Krieger Lind, who's an attacking player who's going to take the place of probably Jesper van der Heijden. But I'm still waiting for KI to sign somebody. But one of their players, Ahmed Latif, he has signed for B68. And I think it was about time. He's a fine football player with a lot of speed. He's really, really fast, and you rarely see players faster than him. But he has never really settled into the team and never actually done anything that good. He's made some mistakes which has made him unpopular in Klaksvik, but he's a great guy, and I hope he will succeed in B36. And then for HB, they have signed Diop from TP, from the team that got relegated from Surai, and I'm kind of doubting that transfer because he looks like a good player, but I was thinking if he got re-signed to a team in the best division, it would probably be one of the bottom 5 teams, not HB. But let's see. Their coach hasn't lost a game since he took charge of HB. In the Faroe Islands, obviously, he lost one game against Brumby in the Conference League, but he drew at home, which is impressive. So I think HB are going to strengthen because they're also losing some key players, and that's the same for NSU. They are losing a lot of players actually, and they have signed, I think, 2 players. Nothing that exciting. Marius Kriegerlind is exciting because he's a good player for B36, and I'm excited to see how B36 are going to strengthen themselves because they have lost 2 key players. Marius Kriegerlind, they have lost to NSU, but also they have lost Mikkel Hullegard. But as I said, back to KI's transfer, is that they were looking at a Norwegian striker. I haven't heard anything more about that, but one thing I have heard is that they're searching in Argentina again. We got some great success with Gaston Telechia, which became the second best defender in the league this season. He managed to get into the first 11 of the team of the season, and he would probably have won the defender of the season if Ottmar hadn't won it, his partner in crime, which is incredibly good as well. But he's getting older, and Gaston is young, or younger. He's 26, I think, and he has been incredible. He is a tall, strong, fast defender, exactly what KI needed. And then we also signed 2 other Argentinians, Martin Gonzalez, which looks really, really promising. I really like his flair, but he has also really he's attacking minded. When he gets the ball, he tries to pass it forward, and that's good to see from a midfielder. And he has skills as well, and he's good with the ball, good ball control, and yeah, he tries to find the forward passes. And we also had Tobias, the striker who got loaned out to Nordsjælland. He did great for Nordsjælland when when he was there, but he never really made a breakthrough for KI. Yeah, it was a bit disappointing, but he looked more like a winger and got played in the attacking position, so it's hard to compete against Podkletska for that position. Other than that, there's not much more to talk about when it comes to transfers. I will obviously come back when there's more exciting stuff happening, especially for KI. Yeah, if you have any thing you want to hear about when it comes to Faroese football or for KI specifically, just let me know, because I would love to talk about stuff that you guys are curious about and what you guys want to hear more about. I have some episodes planned. As I said earlier, I want to talk about KI's run in 2023 when they qualified for the Conference League, but I also want to talk about the Faroe Islands campaign this season, which has been really, really good. Record amount of points, record amount of goals scored, and also record amount of goals conceded. So yeah, let me know what you guys want to talk about, and obviously I will come back when there's more interesting stuff happening around the transfer, but usually the teams start to really get more and more players in January, and that's also when they start to train. Stay tuned, because there's 100% coming more exciting players and exciting stuff to talk about. But for now, thank you guys really much for listening to the second episode of the Far North Football Podcast. And remember, always let me know if there's something you think I could do better, or if there's something I do well. That's also really nice to hear. So, and thank you again. And this has been your host, Høgne Låsan Poulsen, signing off.